Hi, everybody. My name is David Brennan. Welcome back to SaaS Founder Stories. Today I have Stéphane with Dash. He's the co-founder. He's going to tell us a little bit about his company, and then he's going to teach us a little bit. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to join you and discuss that topic, which is, I think, very important one for any SaaS founder. So what do we do at DashAPI? Well, we are a new breed of CRM. We want to define ourselves as customer relationship magic. What does that mean? That means you do not have to take care of any of the data mapping and complex data pipe flows that usually you have to take care of when you set up a CRM. We found out that a lot of founders and even mid-sized companies have a lot of issues when it comes to integrating tools that they need in order to run their marketing inside of their CRM. And that without proper information in the CRM, adding AI on top of it is kind of like a waste of time because you don't have the right information in the right place. So we're solving the data problem by offering a new way to get information from where it sits, and that could be products like Archeo who actually benefits from that type of thing, because certainly you have access to accurate information coming from all the marketing tools and all the sales tools that are being used in the company.
Very cool. So tell me, I'm a SaaS founder. How would I use your product?
Well, usually it's pretty straightforward. So we massively use AI in order to make the UI completely user-friendly and intuitive. If you look at existing CRMs, and it's funny to say that because right now it's Dreamforce in San Francisco, and I'm surrounded by Dreamforce people when I'm speaking. Their product is very complex, very uh, covers everything, but you need to be a guru in order to understand how to do things. And then you have the other side of the equation where you have very simple, very minimalistic products that never fits your business. So in both cases, you have to spend a lot of time in either developing missing features or learn how to find and use the existing ones, which may not be that easy as well. Our vision is we have LLMs now, so why not we use that in order to pilot all the configuration? So you as a user express what you want to do, what you want to achieve with your CRM, and you can do that using your simple words. And then we take care of all the configuration aspects and how we connect to the different platforms that you are going to be using.
So
So
if I'm a,
it's a game changer in the way that what I like to say is it's just like moving from Yahoo to Google when in the late 90s, early 2000, we shifted from one way to access the internet or information on the internet to a new one where you can say and use your proper words, and you don't have to go look for a specific box where you can identify something that may be interesting for you.
yeah, that's such an interesting, I think that's one of the big movements we're seeing now with these LLM technology, I'll say, and how it can open up the interface and how we interact with our data sets. If you look at a lot of the big CRMs, there's 800 or 1,000 pages you could move through. And I think in the future, you're going to have these much more simple systems that
Yep.
are conversational or multimodal, where you're just working with the software as instead of like trying to move through it and navigate and find the page and find the contact and the deal and all that. Super cool,
So
man. So who's your
there's
ideal
something I'd like,
customer?
before we answer the ideal customer question, there is something interesting. That move you were describing is actually defined as service as a software. And we keep the SaaS acronym, but we're just pivoting two letters and it's changing completely the value proposition of the software you're building. Certainly you're moving from a tool that you need to invest time and money in order to get something out of it to a sidekick, a co-pilot, a co-worker that is going to be next to you and provide value to your business straight out of the box.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the neat part about this technology and the way that it's changing the way you can build, to be honest, because
Yep.
there used to be, think about past products, how many hours were spent building out Figma flats and like all the design part of it, and then testing with the customer and seeing how they would interact and move and if the button was in the right place, right? All that goes out the window when I can say, hey, I need the top three contacts I need to talk to today. And boom, they pop up. I think this is like, I love what you're doing because that's going to be, we see the same thing. It's software is about to change in a way that I think people are going to really, really enjoy.
So I definitely agree, and that actually is a very good transition to who is our ideal customer. We figured out that a lot of people in the enterprise are not IT gurus. They're not developers. They don't want to touch this. They want to do their job. And our ideal customers on the marketing and sales side are really those type of people. We cover the full spectrum. So that could be either RevOps or marketers, CMO, growth officers, uh, director of sales, etc. We design the product for them in order to make sure they can actually do their job without having to invest a lot of time and money in something that is going to take a lot of time for them in the end of the day. Especially for the salespeople, automation is key in that place because they don't like having to report. It's a waste of time for them. They prefer talking to customers, engaging, making money, and that's good for the business. At the same time, the business needs some visibility. We need to understand how we convert the leads. We need to understand if we have those sleeping customers, if we have someone who's engaging with them, and if we can actually develop the relationship with these people. And I think it's important to provide them with a tool that they can actually use in a very simple way. So we don't have a real IC per the clear definition of it. We cover the sales and marketing features and personal, and that's really where we want to stay right now because we are kind of an horizontal solution in the enterprise. Um, and we often have also CEOs who are actually joining the platform because they have simple questions on how performance or performance, sorry, their marketing teams are, and they want to understand the metrics, and they can actually directly ask these questions to the platform as well. It's saving them a lot of time because in a traditional organization, when the CEO is asking for something, then it goes down the line to eventually reach the person at the very bottom who is going to execute the request, and then it goes back up again. So that can represent several days. And in the world we're living in, we know that if we can get the answer in a couple of minutes, it's way better for the CEO than waiting for a few days.
That's awesome. So let's transition into the challenge that you guys solved that you want to teach us about. I'll let you expand on that.
I think the biggest challenge was to identify the problem and crystallize a solution around it. We joined the Alchemist program with a clear vision of we want to be some sort of a decision intelligence platform. I think we had a vision that was pretty close to what you were doing at Arkeo at the time. Going from that, we started talking to a bunch of people, mentors as well, and we understood that there was a problem down the line on the data layer. And that actually reconnected the dot for me with my past experiences where I was in charge of Salesforce and HubSpot integration in past startups. And my co-founder was 11 years in marketing, also got that Yahoo moment where we were like, yeah, actually um, we have to recreate the CRM if we want to get something else done properly before. And that's the first layer. The foundation layer is where do we have the information? And we see that there are battles on the marketplace between giants like Salesforce, Snowflake, etc. But many mid-sized enterprises don't care about that. They just want one CRM that works and maintain the data accurate, etc. And if you don't invest time and money in doing so, the information you have in your CRM is going to be wasted in like 2 years or so. So that's creating a lot of friction for the mid-sized businesses. And that's really the sweet spot we're operating in right now. So discovering the real nature of the product and before that, the real nature of the problem was actually the biggest challenge we had to overcome in order to get moving.
Or if you were chatting with me and I'm where you were when you went into Alchemist, where you had an idea of what you wanted to do, how would you direct me to be able to find that specific problem that you're looking to solve?
I think the questioning was, in our case, more around are we a product or are we a feature? And in that respect, becoming a product means that we take ownership of more information on behalf of the companies and users that we have. And that actually changes the relationship you have with your customers as well. I think that the profile of the founders and the team was more interested in being on the product side and expressing our concerns around the fact that when you're a feature, someone can always do a plus one above you, and that's much easier, was actually one of the concerns we got from a couple of mentors. And then I think the very good thing was really to talk to customers and understand, okay, where are you? What do you do? And we saw a recurring pattern coming up. That CRM costs a lot of money. It's complicated to use. It's not all covering our needs. So we have to plug in Segment, Zapier, we have to plug in Mixpanel, etc. And we're like, okay, yeah, there is something there where we can feel that people are unsatisfied by what they have. and they are unsatisfied by what they're looking at. And that was the second biggest revelation when we started talking to head of marketing from larger startups, the one that had this pivotal moment when they start on HubSpot and they now have to take a decision. What do we do next? Because HubSpot is not an enterprise really, and they're becoming an enterprise. And most of these head of marketings were telling us, we know what, we don't want to go to Salesforce because it's way too complicated, it costs too much money, and it's so outdated. We had a double Yahoo moment. I think the first one was when we identified that rebuilding the CRM was a key feature that everybody was expecting, and nobody was really tackling this problem right now. The second one was, okay, now we identified a better spot, which is we know when companies are transitioning and we can actually get there. That's the perfect timing for us. And identifying those two opportunities were actually critical for us and the business. We kind of did that in the past 2 months. So it's pretty recent
Mhm.
in the process of DashAPI.
That's very cool. So you touched on being part of the Alchemist network. That's kind of where we first met. This is your second time through, right? Alchemist?
Yes.
So what made you decide to go a second time? I've wanted to ask you that question for a while.
Well, I think the first time was kind of a rocky experience. We were building a product for in-person events at the beginning of COVID. So we did the product demo. We signed the first customers a few weeks before COVID was going to make the headlines. A week or two after COVID started making the headlines, all the customers left. And we ended up being part of the Alchemist with a product, no customers, and a decision to take, which is, are we sticking to what we do or do we pivot? So everything was brand new. The company was a little bit too fragile. We had a very difficult experience because everything was new also for the Alchemist. It was the first time we were going fully remote. That was a good experience. I really like the team and the support they gave us. We managed to leave that very difficult situation and move on with this company. And later on, we sold it to another one. So that was a good closing for everyone. And then when I started this one, I was like, yes, a lot of things have been evolving in the industry. The way you pitch, the way you present, the way you connect with others, and being again, part of the group actually will make it easier for me to catch up on those instead of going talking to a VC and learning the hard way that this is not the way you have to present when you're early stage in the process. So I think the it was one of the questions they asked me during the initial interview. Why do you want to join? I mean, you're a pretty senior founder. Why do you want to join the Alchemist? And I think the answer is always the same for me. Is things are always evolving. There is always something new to learn, new practices, new tools, new hack. It's a very vibrant community. I mean, we met there. We know we have different activities outside of just being founders, which are also part of the Alchemist. So it's a great group. It's a very supportive group as well. And I think it's getting better and better with the new cohorts and the new staff that they're bringing on board. So I'm very positive about it and the outcome for us. We found some of the initial customers, and then maybe the same for you from the network. And we are also reaching out to more as we are getting ready to release the product. So
Yeah.
it's really a community effect, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's often like that's the thing that's overlooked so much. I think as founders is that community. I don't think you can replicate that for a lot of people unless you have spent a long time building your network. Most founders, if they can get into one of these community-based accelerators, amazing experience and I think significantly improves your probability of being successful, which is a big deal, especially if you're going to go put your heart and soul into something, right?
And you know, it's also interesting because past founders also join you and they explain what they did wrong. I mean, being in a community where you have founders who are joining and telling you, oh, this is all the mistakes I've made, and learning from their mistake is actually one way to speed up your learning process. You don't have to do twice the same mistake, but in that case, you don't even have to do it once because someone else did it for you. And having a group where you can openly talk about these issues that you have and the problems that you have is also very important for founders. It was one of the very first advice we received when we started the company. Not this one, the previous one. It's find people with whom you can talk and you can openly talk about everything, the bad, the ugly, the problems you have, including sometimes the personal problem you have, because your personal life and the startup life are kind of mixing together. And you need to have a safe space where you can talk about this so you can relieve the pressure and find solutions to these issues.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect place to close it, my friend. Words of wisdom. So thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing you in San Francisco next time I'm there, and
Definitely.
have an amazing
Well,
day.
thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure talking to you, David.